the sky's blue, and we have the amazing, best-selling children's author Cressida Cowell here to entertain and inspire you for the next hour. And she is definitely one of our favourite authors. She's passionate about books, reading, and children escaping into different worlds. She's the author of the 12 books in the How to Train Your Dragon series, but today she will be chatting about her equally thrilling series, The Wizards of Once. And today is particularly special for Cressida because it's publication day of the final book in the series, Never and Forever. So let's welcome Cressida with a big virtual round of applause. Oh, do you want to put your... There we are. Lovely. Hello, Cressida. How are you today?
Thank you for that lovely welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem at all.
And I'm just thrilled to be here. I wish I could give you all, I wish I could be there so I can give you all a big hug, but I consider you yourselves virtually hugged. So yes, I'm going to chat to you about Wizards of Once and introduce you to the series. Can I go big? At the moment I'm looking like I'm small on the screen. Is that right? Or am I big on the screen?
You're big on the screen, Cressida, and when we go to screen share, you'll just be in the sidebar. So
okay.
yeah.
You big on the screen.
Do you want to change your view to gallery view? Have you got gallery view?
Okay, sorry children, sorry everybody watching. I'm challenged, but I think technology is like magic. So what do I do? Oh, perfect. I've changed it. Yes, that's perfect. Okay, hello everybody. And I'm here actually in my garden. No, I'm in my sitting room in London. I normally write in the writing shed that is at the bottom of the garden, but the internet isn't good enough to do it from there. I'm here to talk to you about Wizards of Once and introduce you to Wizards of Once, which is the last book is being published today, but I'm going to talk to you more about the whole world and introduce you to the series Wizards of Once, Never and Forever. And what gave me the idea for this series? Because I always think that children are the most creative people in the world. And I know, isn't that true? Isn't that true? And I know there will be children out there who want secretly to be a writer or an illustrator or a film director or an animator or a game designer. There's all sorts of, I bet you if you're there, this is the talk for you. But actually, even if you're not one of those things, there'll be people who want to be creative in whatever area they're in. So you could be a creative teacher, creative scientist, whatever you want to be. I'm going to give you some tips about being creative. Yeah, so listen hard here. Yeah. So yes, I had just finished my How to Train Your Dragon series when I started writing Wizards of Once, and I had a bit of a problem. Because now Carrie will know about this probably, which is that I had a bit of a problem because I'd loved that Viking world so much, and storms, and I fell in love with the characters and Hiccup and Fishleg and riding on the back of the dragon. I mean, how cool is that? I thought, how can I write about something I care about as much as I care about that world? Because that's one of the first things about writing. If you're writing, you have to write about things that you really care about and that you really mind about, because then it will come across to your readers. Whatever you're doing, you have to do it with passion and heart. So I thought, I know magic. Yeah. When I was a kid, I secretly wanted to have a magical power. Okay. Is there anybody out there who would secretly like to have a magical power? Yes, Gary's got her hand up, I bet you. If there's a teacher in your class who doesn't have their hand up, they are lying. Yeah. We all secretly wish we had magical powers. And I want you to think about what that magical power might be. What might it be? It could be anything. It could be turning invisible. It could be flying without being on the back of the dragon. It could be, that thing, where you point out your fingers and you point it at something and you kind of make the things fly around the room, a bit like Matilda in Roald Dahl. Or it could be going back in time or turning into a bear. Or what would your magical power be, Carrie?
Oh gosh, I think it would have to be something that would help me get lots of things done. So, multitask. Could I be some kind of multitasking power?
Are you a parent, Carrie? I mean, I
Well,
find the parents.
indeed.
Anyway, yes. And teachers and bookshop owners and librarians, they often need things. Anyway, getting things done. But imagine what your power might be, whoever you are out there, you guys watching. And then maybe think about drawing a character with that power or writing a story about it. It's a fantastic thing to write a story about. First story, idea and tip. I'm going to be doing them throughout. Okay. So I'm setting my this whole book series in a world where magic really exists. Okay, it's 3,000 years ago at the end of the Bronze Ages, and the beginning of the Iron Ages. Okay, and some people say that magic, there's no such a thing as magic, and that it never existed. But I say, have you ever been to the Bronze Ages? No, you haven't. So maybe, who knows? And it begins, as I say, in this world where magic really exists. And it begins with these words. Once there was magic. It was a long, long time ago in a British Isle so old it did not know it was the British Isles yet. And the magic lived in the dark forest. Perhaps you think that you know what a dark forest looks like. Well, I can tell you right now that you don't. These were forests darker than you would believe possible, darker than ink spots, darker than midnight, darker than space itself, and as twisted and as tangled as a witch's heart. They were what is known as wildwoods, and they stretch as far as you can possibly imagine, only stopping when they reached a sea. So that is the beginning. That's the world we're in. That's the narrator voice. Yeah, notice it's a voice like there were dragons when I was a boy, etc. Now, Carrie, could we go to the PowerPoint?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the world we're in. I'm trying to cast you back in time and notice the way that I'm talking. Yes, it's very, yes. And next slide, please, Carrie. It's being narrated by a character who you don't know who they are. It says, I am a character in this story who sees everything, knows everything. I will not tell you who I am. See if you can guess. The story begins here. Don't get lost. These woods are dangerous. Yeah. So you see, you don't find out. You finally find out who the narrator is in book 4, yeah? But children have been guessing who it is. It could be any of the characters. Any of the characters I'm about to show you could be the narrator. But you have to guess when you read the story, who is this mysterious narrator narrating the story? Okay. So
does that sound like a good is that time for a question then, Cressida, to ask you about the characters in the...
From you? Oh, okay, yes. You want to ask me, okay. Shall I introduce you to the characters? Yes, I'll introduce you to the characters. They're living in this world, as I say, a world. Can you see the map? This is a world which is cut in two, because the world is covered in forest, it's covered in wildwoods, where there are many types of humans living. The wizards, Carrie, who were magic, but also the warriors who were not. Yeah. The wizards had lived in the wildwoods for as long as anyone could remember, and they were intending to live there forever, along with all the other magic things, until the warriors came, and the warriors invaded from across the seas. And though they had no magic, they brought a new weapon that they called iron. And iron was the only thing that magic would not work on. Okay, this is really important. So listen, so the magic doesn't work on iron, yeah? Because this is the Iron Ages, the end of the Bronze Ages, beginning of the Iron Ages. And so the Iron Warriors are fighting back all of the magic there, and they're trying, and you're going to see that they get rid of the witches, and that's fine because nobody cares about witches. But then they start getting rid of all the magic things, Carrie, all of the wonderful things like the giants and the sprites and the werewolves and all of these. You know, this is a marvelous world where all of these wizards have powers like teleportation, but the warriors are trying to get rid of it all. So these two heroes I'm about to introduce you, sorry, Carrie, I'm just trying to give you the background, is that they are brought up from opposite tribes. Yeah. the other side of the wall. The wall is right in the middle there. That's the wall, yeah. And the warriors are on one side of the wall, and the wizards on one other. And they've been brought up to hate each other like poison. Let's meet these characters. Okay, thank you, Carrie. Okay, this is the story of a young boy wizard and a young girl warrior who have been brought up to hate each other like poison. And now that's Zar on the left. Zar, the boy Zar, is from a wizard tribe, but he has no magic and he would do anything to get it. Okay, so Zar is the wizard boy. And the thing is, you see, guys, about magic in my world, you can make your own laws in your world. And the thing, my law is in this world, is that the magic of wizards doesn't come in, they're not born with it until they're about 13. You know, a bit like when people start changing and growing up and everything. That's when your magic comes in. And Zar's magic hasn't come in yet. And Zar isn't a kid like Hiccup, he is very, I love Zar, but he's very, very disobedient. He's the kind of kid who acts first and thinks later. We know this kind of kid, don't we? That kind of kid. And he's sweet, he means well, but he's the most disobedient boy in the Wizard Kingdom for about 4 generations. In the past week, Zar had tied the beards of 2 of the eldest and most respectable wizards together when they were sleeping at the banquet. He had poured a love potion into the pig's feeding trough. So the pigs developed mad, passionate crushes on Zar's least favourite teacher and followed him around making mad, making loud, enthusiastic squealing and kissing noises. So he's the kind of kid, he's very disobedient, but he's got some good points. He's very pleased with himself and he thinks he's always right, and he has trouble sometimes seeing things from each other's point of view. So he's got a lot to learn, Carrie, but he is very creative. And yes, he's not going to just sit around and wait for his magic to come in. No, he hatches a plan at the beginning of this book. Tell me whether you think it's a good plan. He decides he's going to set a trap to catch a witch and use its magic for himself. Is that a good plan, do you think, Carrie? What with one thing and another? No! It's a terrible plan. It's an appalling plan and it all goes wrong. Anyway, so at the beginning of this book, he is out there. He has got to, because he's so disobedient, he's run away at the dead of night into the forest and he set a trap to catch a witch. A mad plan. As you'll find out when you meet the witches. I'm so sorry, Carrie. When I'm trying to scare you, I do try and scare you.
I know.
I'm always trying to move you. I'm always trying to make you laugh or make you cry or move you. But when I'm trying to scare you, I do try and scare you. And anyway, so the witches are scary. So Zar is crazy, but he's also very brave. You know, I love a brave hero. So he's doing that anyway. Anyway, he's in the forest doing that. At the same time, Wish, who's a warrior, is in the forest at the same time. And she just happened, just by accident, that she has also escaped from her own fort. She should not be in the forest, but she owns this banned magical object and she'll do anything to conceal it. The thing is, she's in the forest with her bodyguard, who's called Bodkin. And at dead of night, there they are, Wish and Bodkin, and they're looking for Wish's pet. And she shouldn't have a pet at all. She should not have a pet. But she does have a pet. And Bodkin, who's the bodyguard, says, you're not allowed pets. They're against the warrior rules. And you're most particularly not allowed this kind of pet. And Wish says, he must be terrified. We couldn't possibly, because the thing about Wish, you see, is that she's very sympathetic. She's kind of she's not always obedient either, Carrie. I don't know why I write all these disobedience.
Who are they based on?
I don't know. I have no idea. But she is very kind and she's worried about her pet, and she's always, you know, she's got a lot of qualities that Zar doesn't, that Zar can learn from, you know. Mm-hmm. And she's looking for that pet and she says, oh, he must be worried, running away all on his own in the terrors of the bad woods, all alone and scared. Aha, she said, there he is. She hauled on her pony's reins and jumps off the pony and go to get the pet. Thank goodness. She stroked whatever it was gently and made soothing noises as if to say, "Oh, don't worry, it's fine now. You're safer with me." The sort of noises that might calm a petrified dog or cat or rabbit. The pet was not a dog or a cat or even a rabbit. That pet of yours is a spoon, objected Bodkin. The assistant bodyguard was right. The pet was indeed a large iron dinner spoon. Something very odd is going on. Because Wish, you see, she's not supposed to have, oh my goodness, she's not supposed to have anything magic. She's not supposed to have a magic pet. She's not supposed to have anything because there's these big signs everywhere. The warriors are banned magic. All, this is her scary mother's sign. All magic is banned. No sprites, no giants, no rogueresses, no snowcats, no werewolves. But Wish has this magical spoon. You notice something odd about that spoon too, Carrie? It's made out of iron. Yeah. Magic isn't supposed to work on iron. Something very odd is happening. The witches are waking up because they found this giant witch feather. I think it's really bad news because because the thing is, the magic that works on iron, who's going to be really keen on getting hold of that magic? Witches. Anyway, so yeah, you get that. Okay, so we've introduced the characters. And here's the thing. Notice how I illustrate them. I've put them on opposite sides of the page. You've got opposite side of the map. They're from opposite tribes, a bit like Romeo and Juliet, but without the love. Yeah, this is preteen. Yeah. Okay, so they're on opposite sides, but they've been brought up to hate each other. One of the themes of this book is about empathy. It's about prejudice. And another theme is about how much we adults have to learn from our children, and children are less prejudiced than the adults. And I bet you when Zar meets Wish, maybe they'll be a bit more open-minded than their parents. Who knows? Okay, let's just very quickly, let's see Zar's companions very quickly. Okay, yes, this is Ariel. That's that he has all these sprites. I wish I could be a wizard and have all these sprites. He has all these sprites, Ariel and Tiffenstorm and Squeeze Juice and Bubble Boozle. Notice on the right-hand side, just down at the bottom, there's a once sprite riding a peregrine falcon. And that's because I did research into fairies and people's belief about fairies. And people's believed that not all fairies could fly. And so sometimes they flew on the back of birds. And so I draw that picture of the once sprite. But the other thing I do is I take out a picture of a peregrine falcon and I make it look very like a peregrine falcon. Why is that important? This is a tip. Okay, now I'm going to give you my second tip about writing. My first one, write what you love. My second one is clean out your ears, very important. Writing is like telling a really big lie, okay? A real stretcher of a lie. The more detail you put into the lie and the more you base it on a tiny grain of truth, the more it comes alive in your reader or your watcher's head if you're making movies or something like that. Okay, so this goes for everything about writing. Shut your eyes for a second, Carrie, and all you children and teachers out there. If I say Gobber the Belch has a big red beard, can you see that beard in your head? Sort of. But if I say Gobber has a beard like exploding fireworks and Gobber has a beard like a hedgehog struck by lightning, can you see the beard a bit more clearly because I based it on something true, the five senses, something you can smell or touch or taste or hear, yeah? So think about that when you're doing your writing. Think about your five senses and what your characters are smelling or tasting or hearing. Also think about something. You can open your eyes now, Carrie. You're very obedient, darling.
Okay. Try my best.
So basically, yeah, think about the other thing is research, which sounds so boring, but is very, very exciting. I do loads of research into real things like how peregrine falcons look and to make you think that my imaginary things are true. And so will animators. Yeah, animators, because these books are made into movies. I meet them a lot. And so if they're trying to make you believe that Toothless is a real dragon and he really is flying, they will look at lots of film footage of birds flying, and they will look at the way that cats move. Next time you watch the film, look at the way that Toothless moves, and he's a mixture of a cat and a bird fly. Anyway, So little tip there. Next picture. So these are all Tsar's sprites. And my favorite is, oh, Squeeze Juice. He's this tiny, weeny little hairy fairy. And he's just, notice when I draw him, again, guys, because I do the illustrations, I'm giving you lots of tips. When I draw Squeeze Juice, I try and think very sweet thoughts and notice I've used a very soft pencil to draw him. And I've made it very tender, that mark, yeah, when I do it, because I want to make you think, oh, Squeeze Juice, he's so sweet. And Squeeze Juice hero worships Tsar. And he's in real trouble. And I tell you this because, oh my goodness, it's really real trouble in the last book. It really is. Squeeze Juice jumps in. You know, I said about the setting the trap to catch a witch. Not such a good idea, it turned out. Because Tsar, the witch does come. And Tsar intentionally, this is the problem with Tsar. He doesn't think. He puts the witch blood in his hand and it's now taking him to the dark side. Never put witch blood on your hand, Carrie. Never, never, never. It's taking him to the dark side. But lovely little Squeeze Juice, he tried to get in the way. He knew, he tried to save Tsar. He tried to get in the way and he got a drop of witch blood on his head. Okay. And so through the series, it's taking him not only to the dark side, but it's also going to kill him because he's a very tiny creature, much smaller than a human being. So he's a very important character. Okay, next picture. Next picture. Yeah. These are the Night Eye. They ride on the back of these great lynxes, much bigger than ordinary lynxes, which are not so big, but these are huge because this is my fantasy world. And they're more like Canadian lynxes because it was colder in, so they I love those Canadian lynxes. Look them up, guys. They got fur like powder snow. It's magnificent. He's got a talking raven called Caliburn. The name is important. There's lots of kind of slightly Shakespearean names. Anyway, but you don't have to pick on that. He's a talking raven who's trying to keep Tsar out of trouble, and that's an impossible mission. Okay, next picture. I'm just running you very quickly through. Oh, this is his giant. I would like to own my own giant, wouldn't you, Carrie?
I would. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. He's a big giant. And so he's headed in the treetops and he's thinking big thoughts like how many universes are there? Those sort of thoughts, And
looks very wise, yeah.
Also philosophical. He's thinking philosophy, Karen. How many universes are? And, are there other universes with other crushes in them? Things like that. Big, big thoughts. Anyway, yes, because I'm trying to get you guys to think those sort of thoughts. Anyway, next picture. Okay, next picture. Okay, and there's Wish with a spoon. The spoon. Oh, I love the spoon. And next picture of the spoon. Can we have Carrie? Oh yes, spoon move.
I love this.
Excited, scared. I'm trying to, with the spoon, I only have the eyes and the body language to make you know. But isn't it interesting how you can tell a story about the spoon's moods and their emotions? I'm very interested in emotions, guys. Telling stories through people's expressions is a really good, it's a way of taking you through the story anyway. But see how you can animate something, even like a spoon or a fork or something yourself, and make different emotions just by the body language. Okay, next slide. Please, Carrie. I'm really zipping through. Now, I said that the adults have a lot to learn from the children. All my books are about that. How to Train Your Dragon is sort of about Hiccup training Toothless, but it's also about Hiccup training Stoic, his father, in a way. Stoic has to learn a lot. And my adults often have to learn a lot from the children. Okay, but so here in this picture, you can see that Tsar has got that witch stain on his hand, hasn't he? And typically Tsar, he's saying, it's not as bad as it looks. And it is. It's really bad. And you see his father in Kanzo, he's just locked him up because he thinks the way of dealing with Tsar is to lock him up so that, he's the magic doesn't get out of control. But you can sort of see, that actually, if you look into Nkanzo's eyes, can you see why Carrie, why Nkanzo might be doing that?
Has he also experienced that?
Yes, maybe, Carrie, that's a good point. Or maybe he's worried about his son. He's anxious, do you think? He's worried about
He
his
does look very worried there. Yeah.
And this is an interesting thing. I always think that reading gives you 3 magical powers. And these are really important magical powers, Carrie. Yeah. One is intelligence. It's the words, people. Yeah, it's all these words, and children are so smart. They're intelligent. The second is creativity, magic fingers. So you've got magic ideas, magic fingers. Yeah, that's creativity. Children are the most creative people in the world, Carrie, because they don't know the rules yet. Magic fingers. And the last one, magic eyes. Magic eyes so that you can see into people's hearts. Yeah. 3 magical powers. Why is it important? Why, kids, should you get your darling teachers who are so overworked to, to read to you as much as they can? Yeah. It's because I love films and telly. I love them. But reading gives you these special powers. I'll explain why. Because the first one, it's the words, magical ideas, words. Books have loads and loads of words. Films are mostly, visuals, and they're wonderful. But books are words, and I'll show you a little bit about why it's so exciting later. Second one, creativity. Films are very bossy. They tell you how things look. Books let your own imagination. They spark creativity. The third one, empathy. Seeing the magic eye, looking into. Films happen out there. In a book, it's happening inside your head. You can choose to be your favorite character, and you're inside the story. So that's just a quick thing about why anyway, so in Canzo, I can see he's worried about Tsar, because I'm a writer. I'm very good with the magic eye. I can look into his heart and I can see he's worried about Tsar. Okay, next picture. But he's also a king of wizards, and he's very sillily fighting to the death with this woman who is Wish's mother, who is Queen Sycorax. She's pretty scary. And she is the queen of the warriors, and she's trying to get rid of all the magic. Okay, and Wish... sorry?
She looks a bit cross, doesn't she, and fearsome there.
And Wish is running away from her, because both Wish and Tsar have to make their parents realise they should be fighting, not be fighting each other. They should be fighting the common enemy, which is the witches. Yeah, because the witches are really scary, as we're about to meet them. Okay, next picture, please. Yes, I'm just going to show you the more in the world very, very quickly. This is because I always include a non-fiction section, Carrie, because it makes you feel the world extends beyond the page. Again, another challenge I'm going to show you some magical creatures and magical powers, and I'm going to say to you, why not create a page yourself of your own magical creature and write about them? Yeah. Okay. Next picture. So we have, this is a world full of bloody barbeards and 3-headed bugbears. The 3rd head on the bugbear is invisible. Yeah, and I tell you all about them. There's always a non-fiction section, which the spelling book in real life, the spelling book is 1,000,000 pages, but the first page is kind of visible as you turn it. Otherwise, it would be way too thick. Next picture, Carrie. Okay, so next picture. Oh, telekinesis. These are the magical powers, moving things with your mind. That gives a bit of...
Sorry, there we are.
Yeah, moving things with your mind, and the magic eye. So maybe make some more pages up for the spelling book yourselves. Why not? Okay.
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
That's lovely to see all of the characters as an introduction there, Cressida. Thank you so much. But I also want to put you were showing us some lovely pictures and illustrations of landscapes, and I know that they are really important landscapes, location, lovely maps and things throughout your books, and just wondered, are they just existing within your imagination, or are some of these places real? Could we go and visit any of them?
Yes, they are. Thank you, Carrie. Yes, they are. And the How to Train Your Dragon books, I might have time to talk about it at the end, are based on a real place in Scotland, just near the Isle of Mull, where I used to be dropped off by a local boatman. Up again 2 weeks later. So it's a real little island with nothing on it. And I'll show you some pictures of that in the end, but if I get time. But so that's a real place. But this was inspired by another place. Let's have a picture of the map of the Wizards of Once world. This is the map of the world. Now, this is another task. I've given you so many suggestions for story ideas because I can feel your magic fingers over the screen coming at me. I can hear your magical thoughts coming at me, you kids out there watching. Another tip, it would be to draw a map of your imaginary place and then write a story about it. It's a fantastic story starter. And lots of writers, not just me, a writer of a book called Treasure Island. Have you heard of that book, Carrie? Yes. He said, before I thought of the idea of Treasure Island, I drew the map. And as I drew the map, the pirates came creeping out of the map at me. Long John Silver, his cutlass between his teeth. Yeah. So drawing the map gives him the idea for the story. So as I'm drawing the map, I'm thinking of ideas for my story, and I'm also making the lie feel real, because human beings are very clever in time and space. And so as soon as I've drawn that on the map, I know how long it takes to get from Wish's house to Tsar's house in the Wild Woods, because I can see, and I bet you that J.K. Rowling would have drawn a map of Hogwarts, so she knew how long it took to get from one dormitory to another. So this is a map to story start, to make the lie feel real, and also to make you think it is a real place. But also, it comes from somewhere. Remember about the true thing. It comes from my childhood. And this next picture is a picture of the landscape that it came from. This is where I grew up in Sussex, near Sussex. Well, I didn't grow up. My grandma grew up there. But next picture. Can we have the next picture, Carrie? Yes. That's a picture of me. Can you sort of see? I'm the one on the right. Yeah, this is me grown up, and that's me as a little girl. And I'm on a hill that we called Fairy Hill. And there were loads of legends in that countryside about fairies and giants and sprites. And I'm just going to tell you where that idea came from, which is that I called it Fairy Hill. It was in fact called Leven Down, and it means leave it alone hill. And for thousands of years, that had not been farmed, that land. So it was quite a strange landscape, because trees had blown there that normally, and they would never leave these bumps. If you were trying to farm that land, you wouldn't leave these bumps. So it was quite strange, and nobody knew what had made those bumps. Even my dad, who's a big naturalist. And so I thought, wow, people had legends of fairies, they were scared of fairies on that hill. So I thought maybe these were the forts of the fairies, maybe the fairies, because also nearby, there was these big Iron Age forts that there were stories that giants had made them. Next picture. Please, Carrie, sorry, I'm keeping you very busy.
Yes, okay.
The one on actually for the real iron fort that I used to play on, which is Trundle Hill. Next picture. Oh, sorry, Carrie. Yes, that's like an Iron Age fort. My goodness, you can see why people thought that giants built those things. Yeah. And so again, I take that Iron Age fort, and by the way, guys, look them up. They're all over the British Isles. They're probably near where you are too. If you go back again, you can see how I looked at that to make the lie feel real. I looked at Iron Age hill forts like that one to make where Wish lives. That's where she lives, on a real Iron Age hill fort, to make my life feel real now. And then there was also the landscape of trees. Next picture. Sorry, Carrie, keeping you so. This is another forest near where we grew up. And look at these trees. I love trees.
Incredible.
This was a yew forest where some of the trees were over 2,000 years old. And this is one of the biggest yew forests in Europe, and some of the oldest living organisms in Britain are in that yew forest. And you can see, look at that yew tree on the left. Look how it looks. Its roots looks like it's got feet, doesn't it? And it looks like it's got a face. And you can see why Tolkien would have made those tree people. And when I was little, going in that forest after dark, I used to wonder whether sometimes the trees might shake free their roots. Not walking.
Scary.
Okay, I know. And so I love trees, though. I love trees. Okay, these are the kind of trees, amazing trees. Next pictures. Trees. Can we have the next picture? Oh, look at these trees. And next picture that inspired me. Did you know that trees feed each other through their roots? If one of them is sick or dying, they can feed this. I love trees. Next picture. Next picture. Oh, please, Carrie. Yes. And the wizards live down in the tree roots, because I thought that would be, because they're a bit frightened. They have to hide from the warriors. And so can you see the beginning of a staircase? When I was little, because I read Peter Pan, and that's where the Lost Boys looked, I was always looking for staircases underneath. Okay, so that's where they live. Okay, next picture. Carrie. Okay. Oh, excellent. This is a map that a kid sent in to me. I'm really pleased to be able to show you this, because I'm trying to get you guys writing as well as reading with as much excitement as I read when I was a kid. So I love it when kids send in their maps. And I want to show you how this kid is beginning to story start just by the way he's drawing his map. So he's written on the map, Dead Man's Cell. And you're immediately thinking, why would a dead man need a cell, Carrie? Dead men are kind of quiet. Maybe they're going to rise up. And he's written on there, Rodent Town. And you're thinking, ask you a question. Who lives in Rodent Town? Is it giant human beings who look like rodents? Or is it a teeny weeny little town for mice and rats? Yeah? Asking questions. He's got lava underneath. He's done underneath the ground, and you're thinking, is that going to blow? And then he's even started making up his own language on the left. You see, yes. And you're wondering who speaks that language and what does it mean? And actually, this is a moment, Carrie, I think, for me just to teach you a little bit of language. And I'm going to go out of that series into, it's only because I like teaching dragon.
Do I need a pen and paper?
No, you don't, darling, because it's not really for you, because this is the thing. This is not a suitable language for adults. So in fact, I'm going to have to ask all the children out there who have a teacher in the room that they've got to get their grown-ups to put their hands over their ears, because this is not a suitable language for adults, okay? They are way too sensitive. Okay, have you got your hands over your ears? Okay, adults. Okay, children, listen, you'll see why. This is Hiccup talking to Toothless, who's this very disobedient hunting dragon. Here are some common dragon phrases to get you started. Nea quappa in a dehusus pishu, which means no pooing inside the house, please. Me mama not like it, yum yum on de bum, which means my mother does not like to be bitten on the bottom. I mean, who can blame her? I mean, for goodness sake, I wouldn't like it either. This is to a larger dragon. Pishu kindly gobber oot me friendly, which means, please would you be so kind as to spit out my friend. Okay. You can take your hands off your ears, Carrie, and all the teachers out there. Nothing happened here. You can learn this whole language of Dragonese. You know, I think that's what gave the kid the idea of the hieroglyphs. You can learn that whole language of Dragonese. And anyway, yes. And in the Wizard's book, actually, there's a sort of sprite language as well. Next picture, please, Carrie, because I'm trying to give us race.
Oh, yes. Now, I mean, I think you mentioned earlier, but we can't go much further, can we, without mentioning witches?
No.
And yeah, just whether you can tell us, you know, why you think witches are so, you know, that they're obviously, they've got timeless appeal, but also what part do they play in
it's actually, I rather like it when witches, like for instance, in that musical Wicked, you know how when they suddenly make the witches not bad. I think that's quite fun. I like that. But in the Wizard, and I did think about calling the witches something else, but the thing is the word, I'm interested in language. Witch carried such dark resonance, and it makes you, as soon as you say witch, you think, this is what language does, you see, Carrie. I'm interested in words. It sets off associations. It makes you think, oh, witches and Snow White and, oh, the scary witch and Wizard of Oz and, you know, oh, yeah. So that's why. But I made the witches both male and female because, my goodness, why should they just be female? It's silly. Okay, so here is the witch swooping, and notice it's got very long talons. The witch, and yeah. So and look, the baby sprite. I mean, Wish has acquired an enchanted spoon. This is book 4, I think. So a fork and a key, and this baby sprite who's still in the egg and is going bonkers, saying, "Ah, there's a witch!" And you'll see why, Carrie. If you see what the witch looks like, I'll show you. Oh, I am trying to scare you. Yeah. Yeah.
Ready?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness gracious me. And you see Wish and Tsar and Bodkin, the bodyguard, are flying away on the back of a flying door there. And the witch is sleeping and he's pretty scary. He's got these real feathered wings, a bit like one of those Furies in Greek times. And they're trying to fly away because the witches want to get hold of Wish, who, big spoiler, has magic that works on iron. So we have a double problem. I'm leading up to a double problem in the last book, yeah. And the problem is that the witches are awake and they're trying to get hold of this magic. This is in the last book that will make them invincible, and then they'll get rid of everybody. They will decimate the forest. Yeah,
Got to stop them.
and Tsar's Witchstone is taking him to the dark side. Yeah, because of the yeah. So it's bad. But the thing about my heroes is that they're never downhearted and they're always creative and they're always smart. This is why I want to get you guys reading, because children are very creative and they don't believe in impossible because they don't know the rules yet. This is a very important quality. And Carrie, this is a quality that we're all going to need, this creativity and this belief in the impossible. Because impossible things can happen. This is why I want to get you children thinking creatively. Yeah, because look what just happened in the pandemic. This pandemic, we've just this bad time. How clever were our scientists, Carrie?
Oh, yes.
Vaccine in 1 year. How clever, how smart, how creative they were. You guys, we need you guys to be clever and smart and creative. And you will be, because you believe in the possibility of impossible things. And for instance, some of the challenges facing us, like climate change, who is leading the current climate changes across the world? Is it an adult, Carrie, or is it a child?
It is a child, isn't it? Yeah, a very young person, Greta.
Believes in impossible things. If we can fight the pandemic, we can come up with creative solutions for the future. Our heroes are like that. They believe in the impossible. So they're looking for the spell to get rid of witches. And all the adults, they say, there's no such thing as a spell to get rid of witches. You're nonsense. You know, you're talking nonsense, and they don't listen. But the children have run away and they're looking for that spell. Yeah. So even if the odds are really hard against them, even if the times are scary, they're going to push through. Okay. Next picture, Carrie. Okay. And so that's Tsar. He escaped from this prison that his father put him in just to keep him safe. But Tsar is one of these people who never gives up. He's very creative and he never gives up. Notice you were going to ask me a question about illustrations here, weren't you, Carrie?
Yes, I was just going to say, I mean, it's so lovely to see it like that, actually, you know, the illustration and the writing. And I think it would be really lovely if you could talk us through how you create this. I mean, this is just so wonderful. It's full of the illustrations that you've been talking about and you've been showing us, all of your characters, all of your landscapes. How do you combine all of that? How do you work that all out?
Well, you have to fit it all together like a gigantic jigsaw puzzle. And the illustrations are really important, because here's the thing. I'm both a writer and an illustrator. And I go into things thinking I want to get children reading for the joy of it. And that's partly about the plot, and it's partly about, but it's also about how you make things. Look how I make these books look like sweets, not
Yeah.
yeah, that looks like an actual sweet. Yeah. And I cut the illustrations, cut through the text, and they make it joyful, and I make it splats, and that's really important, because children are often much cleverer than their reading ability. Yeah. And that's really important. Children, it's not a race. Children, it's not a race. I know how this can feel like. Children can compare themselves to other people. It's not a race. Yeah. Everybody will learn to read and spell one day, won't they, Carrie? They all will.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you mustn't be downhearted so I try and write books that are very exciting and feel like sweets, but for highly intelligent children. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. So the illustrations are really important in making in making it feel like a joyful object, because otherwise sometimes children can think, oh, films and telly is beamed magically into my heads, but with books I have to make a bit more of an effort, and it can get downhearted. You can get downhearted, which is why I made Wish, who's the other hero. She's this thing called dyslexic. Yeah, because sometimes dyslexic children can get downhearted, but she is the writer in the story, because she is the one with the magical ideas and the magical fingers, yeah, and the magic eye that can see into people's hearts, yeah. And what I'm trying, so I'm trying to present things so that they're joyful and they're fun. And that's also why I have them read in audio by David Tennant. That isn't, if you struggle with the mechanics of reading, read on audio. That's great. It's a great way into reading, because I don't want children to think books aren't as fun as films and telly, because they are. That's why teachers, please get your teacher or your parent to read to you or listen on audio, so that you can get the books that are up to your smarts. Your smartness. Anyway, okay, so these are that's I'm going to rush now, Carrie, because I want to get through the question. So there's Zara busting out of Gorman Crag, this big prison. And the next picture is Wish, and this is a picture of Wish, and she is in this punishment cupboard, and she busts out of that as well, and they go looking for the spell to get rid of witches. And this is the real problem in the last book, Never and Forever. I'm getting us right up to speed. I can't remember what the next slide is.
Yes,
good. I am right up to speed. So let's go back again, so I can quickly tell you about Wizards of Once, and then I can just talk about. Okay, so Wizards of Once, in this last book, they go looking for the spell to get rid of witches, Wish and Zara, and they have got a real problem, because not only do they have to fight the witches in a big battle at the end, they also have to save Squeeze Juice, who's been kidnapped by the King Witch, and he's in a terrible state. Poor Squeeze Juice. I just want to show you so that you know how high the stakes are. They're really, really high. That's pictures of the big battle and the great giants and everything. But Squeeze Juice is in real trouble, and particularly because at the beginning I said that somebody was going to die. I am really worried about him. Because look, there he is, poor little Squeeze Juice, darling Squeeze Juice. That's the King Witch, whose Wish is imprisoned in a ball of iron, and there he is in real trouble. I hope they're going to be able to save him. I really hope that. It does say underneath the cover, love is greater than witches. Love lasts forever. So I hope that's right, Gary. And when, as I say, you will also find out who the narrator is, which children have been guessing for about years. But if you try and go to the epilogue too quickly, it says very firmly, because I sometimes used to do this when I was a child, it says, anyone who skipped to this epilogue before reading the rest of the story is a big cheat and should go right back to chapter 1, or I'll get really quite shirty. Yeah. Okay. So now, just before we ask questions, I'm going to just tell you a little bit about being the laureate, because I haven't even mentioned that, Carrie. So much. No. Okay, so I got made this laureate, and this was such an honor, which means I set out this charter about all of the things that every child should be able to do. And it says, 1, read for the joy of it. 2, access new books in schools, libraries and bookshops. You see, I love schools and I love libraries and bookshops. And I want them to have new books that look like sweets, and not Brussels sprouts, And so that's why I love them so much. And that's why I love booksellers like Carrie or librarians who can tell you, because it's sometimes very confusing going into bookshops or libraries. So I want somebody who can tell you what book you might like. And I've also got a big campaign, grown-ups, teachers, follow me on the Life Changing Libraries campaign. So I don't know if you know this, but not every primary school has a library, Carrie. Isn't that terrible? Every 1 in 8 schools don't have a library. It's not fair. And the thing is, what children on free school meals are twice as likely to be in a primary school that doesn't have a library. It's just not fair. I don't. Because if a child's parents can't afford books, how can they learn to read for the joy of it? it's just not fair. And so anyway, so I'm trying, that's my Life Changing Libraries campaign. I'm trying to make, campaigns.
Sounds brilliant.
Well, more money to schools, separate money on top of everything else, so that everybody can set up their own primary school library. Anyway, but I'm going to talk to you just for a second before question about one of the other points. I'm trying to do something in all of these areas on the charter. See yourself reflected, see heroes like you, be read aloud to, see an author invent, because that can excite you, like my one about reading. But this is the one I'm going to talk to you. Be creative for at least 15 minutes a week. That's very important. And Carrie, show me the next slide, if you like. This is a picture of Wish, this next slide. And at the end of the first Wizards of Wunch, Wish is given a feather, one of Caliburn's feather. Yeah. And Caliburn says, with this feather, I want you to write your own story. And it's really important he gives this to Wish, because I told you about Wish being dyslexic. But she is the writer in the story. Her spelling and her handwriting might not be very good, but she's the one with the magical fingers, the magical ideas, and the magical eye that can see into people's hearts. Yeah, and to see how other people might think, which I want you guys to always be thinking of, looking into other people's hearts and how they might think about things. Yeah. So I want to hand a magical feather to you virtually across the virtual waves. I want to throw this feather and give it to you. Yeah. Who would like a magical 15 minutes each week where you could have a special book where you could write whatever you want and the teacher couldn't mark it? Just for 15 minutes. Who would like that? Me. I bet you lots of children. Teachers, there's a win for you too. No marking. In this one book, you could write whatever you want. You could write games. You could write, you could write ideas. You could do, oh, look, Carrie's got one. Yay! You could write ideas for films, you could write jokes, you could write, ideas for solutions to things. You could put recipes, you could put spells. I have a book where I put all my recipes because I think cooking is like making spells. But you see, when I was little, I had very bad handwriting and very bad spelling. But in year 3, I had a lovely teacher called Miss Mellows. Doesn't it sound like a Miss Honey?
I love that. Yeah.
And she let me have a special book like this. And I'm going to show it to you. This is the book. And I started writing in this book. You can probably see big as well if you put the next slide up. And you can see, can you see in the middle how I've spelt my name wrong? My name is Cressida and I've spelt it Cressida. But in this book, I'm already drawing the sprites that one day became the Wizards of Wunch. Sprites. Yeah. I'm just playing, and nobody, by the way, there's no wow words. The spelling's not very good. I'm often copying the writers that I admire, but I'm learning to enjoy myself. In other books, there's dragons, and that's where it started. That's where it started when I was 9. It could be you, when children are playing, let's let them play, because who knows, that then became a very grown-up thing. Book series that, keep publishers in business and, booksellers in business and create jobs and, films and, all begins right here, right now with a child playing. Let's not forget that. Okay, so there we are. That's my talk. And if anybody has any questions at all, please write, ask your question now and we can try and answer it, can we, Carrie?
Yes, we can. I meant to say teachers, there is a Q&A button at the bottom here that you can put your questions into, but I have already got some questions that have been sent in, Cressida. So we've got plan A and we've got plan B.
Them as well, if anybody has it.
So I've been sent some questions from Causeway Green Primary, and they are here for...
At Causeway.
So let's have a look then. What's your favourite dragon is one of their questions. What's your favourite dragon, Cressida?
A tricky one, Carrie, because I love all the dragons. I mean, and that's the reason I gave Hiccup 2, in the films, because we didn't have room. They were never going to make 12 films. And also in films, I mean, in books, riding on a dragon is just a bunch of descriptions. So anyway, Hiccup has two dragons, and those are my favourite dragons. I'm not just going to choose one. I can't. It's Toothless, the really naughty, disobedient hunting dragon, and it's Windwalker, his sweet riding dragon. And we sort of mushed them together to create the film Toothless. But I also like Stormfly, who's a mood dragon who changes colour according to her mood.
Oh, lovely. There's a question here actually that I was going to ask you as well. So it's a very good question about just what books did you read when you were younger? What were your sort of favourite books?
I read lots of different types of books when I was younger. I read a lot because partly because I was always I spent all summer on an island without a television.